Hey everyone, and welcome to the Nerdy Up North Game of Thrones podcast, exclusive to Patreon. It's a nerdy podcast, all talking about the
Wonderful world.
of Ice and Fire. My God, I am one of your hosts, Sam.
And I'm Sam 2, the other host as well.
Yes, I'm Sam 1, and that's Sam 2. We're going to make this stick, Sam. We're going to...
I think we've got to, really. If a couple of people have liked Sam 1 and 2, I think there's no other way to do it than doing it like that.
Absolutely not. So today, the Wheel of Destiny chose top 5 Game of Thrones episodes.
Yes.
And it has been one hell of a week trying to pick just 5, but not just pick them because I like a certain part in it.
Yeah,
that was difficult.
That was the tricky part. I had a lot more fun than I thought I did.
It sounds it.
Yeah, I've got my usual case cards, but no, I definitely had a lot of fun doing it because I almost had my first pick and my 5th pick sorted, and it was just more the in-between part.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I had that sort of issue of, do I like this episode just for one specific part, or is it just story progression? Because that's how I've kind of gone about it. I had almost like a tier, and a set criteria of did I enjoy it? Did I enjoy specific parts more than others? How was it to progress the story? What importance did it have to the story overall? That sort of thing. And I've kind of, because I've got a fair list of honourable mentions.
I'll do the disclaimer.
Yeah, get
and
the
then
disclaimer
and then we'll crack on, because we're gonna do things differently than what we do on the main podcast. We're gonna do honorable mentions first, then the top 5. So everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us in the Facebook group, or where we can have an open discussion. What we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong. We can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of nerdism.
Yes, we don't like toxicity.
We do not. So I'm going to start with honorable mentions. And I'm going to let you take the floor with this one because I didn't have any.
I kind of had to, because when going through, I was going through a certain list, and I had like IMDb up next to me, just so I had a really clear list of each episode as well, with a little rundown. And then I was going to YouTube to watch like reaction videos or highlight videos, anything like that. Because if I'm being honest, I didn't have the time to watch every single sodding episode.
Right. Quick question. Who is your favorite reaction? Because I love the bar reaction.
Burlington's Bar.
That's
exactly who I was watching. Yeah, I think that's brilliant, because it's for those that don't know, it's just I don't know. I'm pretty sure they do other things as well. But regarding Game of Thrones reaction, there's tons of videos on there anyway, and there's a few like duos that will go and react to things. But if it's just duos, they don't tend to react massively for it. It tends to be a group of people that react in a big way. And Burlington's Bar, they've got a massive group of like 30 people who are all sat there having a good drink, and they're major Game of Thrones fans. You can clearly tell by how they follow and how they react. And it's just brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But
it's a fun watch, but that's my favorite one to watch is Burlington's. I love them
100%. And that it didn't really influence my list at all, anything like that. Not for like reactivity value or anything like that. But my list of honorable mentions basically goes through. These are not necessarily my favorite episodes, but I think they have moments that are brilliant. And these are in no particular. Well, they are in a particular order because they're in chronological order for the season.
Okay.
Just to go through, but not in like any particular favored ones or anything like that. The first on the list is season 1, episode 9, which is Baelor. That one, for me, the moment that I really liked is when Tyrion brings the Mountain Men to help fight in the battle, but obviously Tyrion gets knocked out, just because I think it's a really good moment. You see Tyrion in a different light, but also it's quite funny.
Shagga.
Yeah, exactly. Tied in with a lot of seriousness as well. I'll try and run through these as quick as possible because there is a few. Season 2, episode 9 and 10, which were Blackwater and Valar Morghulis. Blackwater, obviously the Battle of Blackwater. Really, really good. You've got all the stuff that happens with Tyrion and Joffrey. You've got the Hound there. Then you've got Stannis, but also then you've got stuff like Wildfire as well. Balan Morghulis, you've got Joffrey ditching Sansa to marry Marjorie instead. You've got Arya saying goodbye to Jack and Hagar to go on a different way through Westeros, where she inevitably meets up with the Hound. You've got Daenerys saving her dragons from that weird wizard tower place.
Oh, the House of the Undying.
Yes, that's the one. And then you've also got Jon starting his journey to go and see Mance Rayder as well. Or starting, or he's already there? One of the two. Can't remember.
He's getting somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. I've got season 3. I've got episode 4 and 9. Episode 4 is and now his watch ends. That's Jorah Mormont's death.
Oh,
which I thought was very pivotal.
Yeah,
I love Jorah Mormont. But also you've got Daenerys claiming the Unsullied. And that episode took a massive twist because you're genuinely in the belief that she's selling a dragon. And then she turns around and
she can understand every fucking word they're saying.
That reveal of her understanding of Valyrian was unbelievable.
She doesn't do it at all through their encounters up until the last moment when I think he calls her a slut. And her eyes kind of just look, and at that moment when she kind of looks at him and say, "What did you just call me?" The like, she can actually understand what they're saying. And oh my god, that first Dracarys that we ever saw.
Yep. And then season 3, episode 9, and this isn't on the list. This is the first kind of controversial one: Rains of Castamere.
The Rains of Castamere.
Yeah, that's the Red Wedding.
The Red Wedding.
That is not on my. That is not on my top 5 list.
Not on my list either.
Ooh. I mean, don't get me wrong. The episode is absolutely fantastic. I don't like it for obvious reasons. That Robb Stark's my boy. I don't like that. But it's also, I don't. It is obviously shock factor in as an episode. It is fantastic. It is really, really fantastic. But I kind of don't feel the same as the first time I watched it. Not because of the shock or anything like that, but I just don't feel the same.
I can't watch it again. It's the brutality aside, it's the saying goodbye to some incredibly strong Starks, and I'm not there emotionally. Like going after them, I'm fine. That they're not there, but to see them go.
Yeah, I think as far as strong Stark characters go that we're carrying at the time, I think that they killed. They potentially should have followed the books potentially a little bit with Catelyn's then storyline after that as Lady
Stoneheart.
Stoneheart, that's it. I think they killed because you got to remember, obviously there's Rickon, there's Bran, Sansa and Arya, and they're all scattered as far as. I mean, I get it. The Stark household then becomes into disrepute. It sets off motions. It's one of those.
Yeah.
Swiftly moving on, though, I've got basically the last 4 episodes of season 4. I can't remember episode 7 name. I haven't put it on there, but basically you've got the Laws of Gods and Men, which is Tyrion's trial.
Oh right,
which is fantastic. Again, I've not listed down episode 7, but it's still great. Episode 8, you've got the Mountain versus the Viper. Episode 9, you've got Watchers on the Wall, which was the big battle between the Wildlings and the Night's Watch. And then episode 10, The Children, you've got Tyrion's death and Brienne versus the Hound. In like 4 episodes.
Oh God, yes.
And
I forgot about that.
Like the end of season 4 is potentially the best second half of a season in any television show ever.
He whipped him a new one.
Oh, it's brilliant. And my favourite thing as well, looking at the behind the scenes, is Rory McGann physically tells Gwendolyn Christie properly, don't pull any blows, properly hit me in the testicles, properly go for it. And it makes for just brilliant. And also then you've got the whole thing with Arya, and Arya turns a little bit. And you feel sorry for the Hound because he's there protecting Arya, and he's like, hang on a minute, no, I need to do some good in this world. And then she turns around and like, no, you can suffer.
No.
And you hear like almost like the pain in his voice of just please. He starts like almost crying, and he's like, please kill me, please. But
as a viewer, I'm really glad she didn't, because we've had he is, and I would love to talk about obviously the Cleganeans in more detail.
But
But
might go on the list at some point.
Might do. Oh, well, he just has one of the best arcs in Game of Thrones, start to finish. Literally
we
start to
don't see
finish.
him for a while afterwards, and then obviously then he randomly pops up in some little village with Ian McShane.
And I was fucking living for it.
Oh, so was I. That was brilliant. Who doesn't love Ian McShane as well?
Oh, I know. And he was such a good character. And I was like, I want more. Let me stay here.
Yeah.
You can go off over there, but let me stay here.
Let me stay with Ian.
Yes.
But that was brilliant. But then I've got a couple more after this. It's season 5, episode 10, where you've got Mother's Mercy. This did nearly make my list because Mother's Mercy is one hell of an episode of so many different storylines. Almost the big changes coming all at once. You've got John being stabbed by the Night's Watch. That's how it ends. That's how the episode ends.
Yeah.
You've got Stannis' death, where
satisfying.
oh no, I can't. Don't get me wrong. I actually kind of like Stannis. I'm a bit of a Stannis fanboy for a little bit. He's the last trueborn Baratheon, and even though he's completely surrounded by the Boltons, he's lost everything because of stupid stuff and stupid beliefs. The Lord of Light, Melisandre, and he says to he shows zero fear. He unsheathes his sword and just starts walking towards basically inevitable death.
He deserved it.
Well, until Brienne comes on, because he didn't actually.
But he deserved it. Brienne's fury aside, what he did to Shireen.
Oh yeah,
is completely unforgivable.
It is, yeah. That's partly Melisandre, and then she shows up at Night's Watch like, oh no, Davos. There was nothing I could do. It was terrible. Oh, even though it was her.
Ugh, that woman.
But this episode is so stacked because you've then got Theon changing from Reek back to Theon because he throws what's her name off the rampart.
Oh yes,
Sansa, they jump off the wall.
Yes, they leave. They've managed to escape. Oh, poor Sansa and her dumb face.
One other part. You've got Marcella's death. Marcella says to Jaime, "I know you, my dad."
Oh, I hated that scene so much.
They hug. Jaime gets to have a dad moment, and the next thing she's dead.
I hated that scene so much.
Oh, it's quite heartbreaking.
It's cringy,
and it's such a big turning episode because that's when Jaime goes back to being almost like fuck everyone. I'm Jaime Lannister, like he was in the first couple of seasons.
It was nice to see that side of Jaime again, but I know I don't want to get too much into Jaime, and I've left a lot of Jaime episodes out of my list because I have Jaime Lannister is my favorite character.
Yeah, Nikolai Coster-Waldau.
Yeah, he is my favorite character in Game of Thrones. I love his story arc. I want all I wanted at the end, and this is before I saw the last season, is for him and Brienne just to run off into the sunset and just have lots of very blonde, tall babies and live happily ever after. I nearly got it.
Yeah, we did nearly get it.
I nearly got it.
But that's not always for Mother's Mercy either, because after that you've also got Cersei's Walk of Shame.
Shame.
That's in the episode as well. That is the most.
That is a lot in one episode.
It's such a stacked episode. Like, really is. I mean, there's probably something else that I'm missing as well. Like, there are a couple of episodes that are just so stacked anyway because they have to be for progression of storyline. But the thing is, though, it's not rushed in the slightest. It's all done so nicely.
It's pasted perfectly. I forgot Cersei's Walk of Shame.
Yeah, so good. I watched one reaction and they turned around to their co-reactor and just said, "Did you ever expect to see a character like Cersei Lannister in this position where she's walking naked through the streets and having rotten food and shit thrown at her?" No, you just didn't.
You don't, because of who she is. However, Cersei always believed she was up there with it, but she was so deluded that she was Tywin. Yep. Tywin with tits, she calls herself in the book. Mm-hmm. That is her saying, Tywin with tits. She is nothing like Tywin. She has no strategy about her whatsoever. She is nothing but vengeful, and that's what guides her to make the biggest fuck up that place has ever seen, because she brought the High Sparrow in. She fucked it all up. She didn't expect it to go the way it did.
But the way that the Walk of Shame happened is a massive turning episode for a lot of reasons. because a lot of different storylines suddenly change, and that's when then Cersei, donned with the short hair, she then does become very, very strategic. She becomes very conniving and everything like that, and it changes who Cersei is as a character.
Well, yeah, because it's that does. Up until that point, though, she thought she was the tits.
Oh, God.
She up until she literally turns into a Star Trek villain in less than like 3.6 seconds. But the transition, Cersei again, another one of my favorite characters. I fucking hate her. But there's a reason I hate, there's a reason I hate her, and there's a reason I love her. In that moment, the vulnerability in Cersei's character was that shocking that I'm like, this needs to stop. And
yeah, it comes to the forefront extremely, extremely quickly.
And we know what Cersei's done as a viewer. We know the whole reason we're in this fucking predicament to start with is mainly down to Cersei Lannister.
Yeah, and that's a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah, we know what kind of person she is. We know how awful she is. But in that very second when she's walking down there, you just want nothing but to go and cover her up and get her. And in the book, they describe it as she's heartbroken. Not just because, and it's not that she has to do it. She's heartbroken that her family aren't there. Lannister.
Everyone's scattered. Marcella's gone. Jaime's gone.
No Lannister was there. She asked people to come and be by her side, and for Tommen to be at the waiting for her, and they didn't do it. And no Lannister was there, and that's what broke Cersei's heart when she did the walk of shame. And that's kind of probably explains her turning point. Like, fuck this.
Fuck the lot of you.
Yeah,
you're dead. I've got two more ones. On the list. One's a brilliant episode, one's just a favourite for reasons. Season 6, episode 3 and 5. Number 3 is Oathbreaker.
Right.
That is my boy Arthur Dayne. That's that episode.
Yes, that episode where he's in for all of 2 seconds.
Yeah, and became my immediate favourite. Just because of how he double swords and just with ease.
Honestly, that 2 seconons created such a fan base that I've never seen
won my
before.
Heart in those 2 seconds. And then the last honourable mention that I've got is The Door.
Oh, the door.
If people aren't, because I'm not really one for remembering episode names. This was a tricky one for me because I don't do well with episode names. The Door was Hodor's death, and now I do have quite an emotional episode on my list for other reasons, which are more personal reasons. Not necessarily personal, but my reaction is personal. But The Door is just a genuinely upsetting episode because there's never been a character, I think, in Game of Thrones that more so than Hodor in that moment where people were like, no, George R. You're not killing off Hodor. You're not doing this right now. Do not do this. And then your hope just wanes and wanes and wanes and wanes until you kind of accept it before he's even died that Hodor's...
He went out an absolute hero.
That's also where I started hating Bran Stark. I know that obviously in this is the whole
there's
thing
many reasons for that, but yeah, I totally understand that where that come from.
With the three-eyed raven crow, however you want to put it, that's where you start realizing as well that a lot of things that the three-eyed raven is doing is for duty. There's a lot of duty that needs to be doing. Bran doesn't want to kill Hodor. However, there is no other way, because if Hodor doesn't stay there, Bran doesn't get away.
Yeah, it has to happen.
It's inevitable. To happen. Yeah, it has to happen, and it's bad.
It's like Thanos said, it is inevitable.
Yeah, it is, but I think that is one episode that nobody watching that episode left it with dry eyes.
No, absolutely hysterical. Like, babe, like, do you know that kind of sobbing? And I have done that kind of sobbing a lot in this series, in this whole entire series. I have done a lot of sobbing, and a few of them are in the episodes that I have picked today.
That's the same. I mean, you know for well, because I was messaging you because I've had to really not necessarily. Well, I took my time with it, but I did have to rush towards the end a little bit because with work. But I was going through and I was emotions came out for my number
Yeah.
my number one pick. I have cheated a little bit. That my
Oh,
first my number 5 pick and my number 1 pick they're a two-parter. I'll explain why, but
that's
they
fine.
fall under almost the same pick because for me they were indistinguishable. That I couldn't realistically pick one and not the other for
Right.
specific reasons.
Well, I've picked mine based on how they make me feel. If I can remember it, there's a reason why I've remembered it, and it's how it made me feel. And that is the basis of my picks, because like I say, when it comes to Game of Thrones, there is a lot of great moments, but doesn't necessarily mean it is a great episode.
Yeah.
So there's moments where I'm thinking, there's like one episode that I'm not going to mention, and it is a Jamie point of view. I don't want to talk about that until we talk about Jamie.
Well, I hope that's not on my list then, because
if it is, then it's fine.
There's one episode that I've got that definitely not necessarily revolves around Jamie, but sort of when I was watching it, it becomes my favourite for that sort of reason. For a few different.
I bet you it is that episode as well.
No, I really hope it's not, because it is. I just
it's fine, it's okay. Right, we're going to get started with the top 5 now. If anyone sees my face light up from this to this, it's me just checking my list.
See my face
so I'm not looking down.
If you see my face disappear into the banners like it did last week, sorry, I've no knowledge of where the filter thing is, and I have a tendency to slouch and lean over. So it
gets comfy. It's just comfy.
I know.
Right, who's going to go first?
But I did the honourable mention, so you should go first. Kick us off with your first, because this is what I love about favourite episodes as well, is that you've gone purely on how it made you feel.
Yes.
I had like a massive criteria list of, it needs to fill this criteria to make my list.
If I did it that way, we wouldn't be recording today. It's as simple as that, because I think I would still be sitting there right now trying to rack my brains. So I have to do it based on feeling, based on how it makes me feel. And my first pick is, I love this episode because of everything I'm just about to talk about. It is Winter is Coming, season 1, episode 1. It's not on your list?
Well, we'll find out in a minute.
Well, yeah, season 1, episode 1, Winter is Coming. The first 20 minutes, 30 minutes is some of the most amazing storytelling without really doing a lot. It gives us a Stark family that is alive, that is young, that is powerful. Everything is perfect in that episode, right up until the point where Robert Baratheon puts his big fucking foot in it and says, right, Ned, get on your horse.
Yeah,
we're going to go and fuck some shit up.
You know, our father figure, John Aaron, snuffed it, and I kind of need you, buddy. So, you know.
So, yeah, get on your horse.
You've got a choice, but you don't. No, I agree.
I love this episode because of, not only is it the beginning, it is a very good beginning. It is a very strong beginning, and again, doesn't overcomplicate things. I think we referred to this maybe a last week's episode.
I think it was our intro. I think it was our intro, just talking about how even the first episode kicks off where you've got a lot of things that are very much sense of duty. You know, we spoke about Ned, all the spiel about him. You know, you know, Warden of the North, command you to death, blah blah. But the world building, it's almost like it expects you to know a little bit because the books have been out for so long, but it gives new watchers a chance to get hold of it. The new watchers know, I don't quite know exactly what's going on, but I've got the gist of it.
So the first opening scene of this episode is Beyond the Wall. Beyond the Wall. And it is the Night's Watchmen, who we don't know a Night's Watchman. We don't know who they are. To us, they just look like men, in a forest, and something very eerie happens to where one of them disappears. And then all of a sudden, a White Walker, which is very different to the White Walkers that we see later on. Design clearly wasn't set in stone for the White Walkers. But we do see the White Walkers for the first time in episode 1, right at the very beginning. And that sets literally right at the beginning. And that is the opening scene. That alone had me at, yeah, I'm in this. Like, come on, I want to know what's going on.
Exactly, yeah. Like, I want to know who the fuck these blue dudes are.
Yeah, what's going on with his eyes?
Like, because even the character design straight away, cool as fuck. You've got this really eerie sort of way that, you're in a big forest, it's dark, you don't know what's going on.
The creepy
kid. One creepy kid, that kid. Like, sorry for people that are offended by scary language, offensive language. Fuck that kid.
Fuck that kid and her blue eyes.
Yeah.
No, but that was just more than enough. And then all of a sudden you are whisked into Winterfell. Ooh. And you whisked into the Stark family life. You whisked
back into the warmth.
Yes, and you get to see the Starks and instantly apart from Jon, I wasn't too sure about Jon because I was like, he just looked like a warden or something that you could tell.
He's different. You're not sure why he's different.
Yeah.
Same as Theon.
Yeah, I would have thought Theon would have been a Stark. Just the way he was dressed. Jon was dressed in black and he was dressed as he was basically mirrored Robb. We got to see dire wolves for the first time. We got to not only find out what a dire wolf is and that it's a sigil of the House of Stark, but we also got to meet dire wolves 5 to be precise.
We didn't get to meet an adult one because that one was
dead. But we got to see puppies.
But we got our first bit of foreshadowing actually as well because
we did.
The wolf obviously had been killed by a stag.
Yes.
And we find out later on that, just by chance that with Robert's death as the stag, the House Baratheon, his death led to Ned's death.
It did.
And it's the first bit of foreshadowing that you don't see. And again, this is why the episode is so great, is that the world building is there from the get-go. It's not too confusing for new viewers. Yes, there are parts that you don't get, but you're wanting to know more. It sets perfect backdrop, and the rewatchability factor, which we've mentioned before, is phenomenal because you see things going back, like that thing with the stag. You don't realise, unless you've got an extremely keen mind and you realise early on that Baratheon's got a stag. But if you do, you're a fucking liar. And you've definitely read the books.
Yeah, it is nice to go back to this episode though after you've watched the whole series, just to go back and go,
I miss you.
Ned, your head's on your shoulders.
Why didn't it stay like this?
Like,
Ned
is one of the most brilliant yet most frustrating characters that has ever come into the world of Ice and Fire. He is so fucking honor bound. It killed him. And
it literally did. But his impact stays with us from, even though he's not around for that long. And that's the whole point of getting Sean Bean as an actor, because he was given title credits and all that sort of stuff. He's the biggest actor that we see from the get-go. But Ned's influence on the show sticks with us till the end.
Till the very end. Jon Snow, for all that is not like his direct blood, as we know at the end, but Jon is that honor-bound Stark is ingrained in Jon, and that is what takes him right the way to
That's why
the
Lyanna
end.
wanted Ned. I mean, to be fair, it was circumstance that Ned ended up showing up saying, where's my sister and all this sort of stuff.
That was such a great Sean Bean.
Well, no, that was the character that the young Ned Stark.
Oh my god, how amazing was that casting?
Well, this is the thing. It was amazing, but also obviously I love him as Elrond in Rings of Power.
That's who it is. Wow. Okay, that would have done me head in because I'm thinking I can see him. I can see him.
It's so great. I mean, obviously, yeah, it's circumstance, but when Lyanna half knows that Ned's because nobody else is apart from Rob, but she never loved Robert
But,
Baratheon. I mean, she never loved Robert Baratheon.
For John kept that honor bound nobility in him. Rob didn't. Because Rob would never have broke a promise to Walder Frey if he had any inkling of Ned Stark running through him.
To Ned. If Ned was still alive, Rob would still be alive himself. Let's be real.
Honestly, how have you ever thought about what if moments?
Well, we mentioned this, didn't we, before about like what we briefly put up about like what if, just a lot of what ifs.
And what if
it is because when we mentioned favorite characters and I said that about Rob.
Yeah.
What if Rob had survived? Because I'm not being funny. God, he was doing so well up until that point.
So well up until
and it was just the difference that Ned had compared to Catelyn. Catelyn had that old ways about her being honor bound as well, because she brought it up, and Rob was like, sod him, but I'm in love. And we get it. That's why we kind of give him a break, because that's where he differed from Ned. And for me, that's why Rob was a perfect character, because he had everything going for him.
Yeah.
Not honor bound. If you're falling in love with someone, you're falling in love.
Exactly. Well, the Rob was. Look at Catelyn. Catelyn was meant to marry Ned's brother.
Yeah, Ned's older brother.
And that was our love.
That led to Robert's rebellion, because obviously him and his dad were.
Oh God, we will have a whole talk about the Starks and their tragedies, because my God, you could write a soap opera about them.
We need to stop going off on tangent. We're never going to get through these 10 episodes, are we? 5 each.
First episode, season 1, episode 1. That is in my top 5.
Now, my number 5 pick.
I'm going to get rid of you. I'm just deleting.
It's Winter is Coming and Fire and Blood.
Oh my God!
Because before this, I had my number 1 pick set, and then I thought to myself, and I was like, right, let me get number 5 out of the way, because then I can just fill out the blanks. Now I've gone with the 2-parter here, because Winter is Coming obviously is the opener, and as we just discussed, I'm not going to go back over it again, obviously, because the same points that I've written down on my little case cards are exactly the same.
Yeah.
However, the reason why I picked Fire and Blood as well is because it mirrors the opener to a degree, because the opener builds up the world. Fire and Blood almost burns it down, because the last episode, so episode 10, it kicks off with the immediate aftermath of Ned's beheading. The immediate aftermath with the bloody sword, ire, and the whole storyline Stark-wise changes straight away, because you then cut to like Catelyn crying and Rob destroying his sword, and you see the young part of Rob. The fact that Rob is still so young, because his mum is cradling him, and he's saying, "I'm going to kill them," like a child would. I'm going to kill them all. I want to hurt them.
Mummy, I'm gonna kill them. Do you know what gets me? It's that line when she says, "Look what you've done to your sword." It's the way Michelle, I can't think of her surname, how she pronounces "what you've done to your sword" in that beautiful accent, Irish accent, is just, it sends tingles to us. But it's when she cuddles him, and it's almost like she wants to whisper it, but she says it out loud. We'll kill them all.
Yes.
Such
100%.
a good episode.
And it flips, like I said, it mirrors the first episode, because we've had all the world building, and Fire and Blood turns all that on its head. We've had the sort of the progressive storyline, and we're really expecting almost like again, because I've never read the books, and at this point I have no interest in reading them either. I do now, but I hadn't read anything, and you're almost expecting a slow burner, and then all of a sudden, wham! And no, it's no longer a slow burner. The first season, this is definitely over now. All the niceness is kind of gone. You've got right at the very end, you've got Tywin, that's there as well. You've also got Daenerys killing off Drogo, with all that sort of stuff that goes on.
Again, the first episode, not only we mentioned the Starks, and the Starks are very driven throughout that episode, but we get to meet Daenerys for the first time.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, and she's just a
doe-eyed little girl that she is.
And Viserys' weird boob touching.
To the last episode. So going from that doe-eyed little girl to that fucking queen at the end.
She gets reborn from the fire, and her dragons appear, and it changes. Do you know the story? Right, we're getting into the story. Like things have been put in place now. What's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on?
Exactly. Yeah, like I was going to call her Khaleesi, because up until that, like, she was Daenerys or Khaleesi.
And she still doesn't get it. She still shows naivety, because she's like, I'm Khaleesi, you can't go anywhere. The Dothraki are right, okay, but our king's dead. Screw you, little blonde lady.
Yes.
You've killed him with black magic. We don't do magic here. We're Dothraki.
Should have just let him die. Should have just let him die.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't like it, because I think Khal Drogo should have stuck around a bit longer. Obviously, as the story progressed, he wasn't needed, because it would have just got messy. He would have ended up as a nothing character anyway, because of how
it would have been too easy. Look at it from a story point of view. Yeah. It would have been too easy. If Khal Drogo was still alive, he would have done as he said. He would have taken Westeros. It would have been a whole bloody mess, and all the political and story building and character building would be just poof, gone.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, if this probably brought up at a different time from the Wheel of Fortune. But what I liked for the potential for that it was of keeping Khal Drogo alive, getting him across to Westeros within a season, it all going tits up, and then Daenerys ending up lost, offering herself with the dragons. Dragons are reborn. She's like, I've got 3 dragons now. And then the whole slavers with Meereen and all that sort of stuff, I think. And then her rebuilding the army may have been like, it's like a different, if I was writing, that would have been a potential thing that I would have gone down, because in the first season, our 2 big figureheads, male wise, as far as really important and really in the story, they're dead. In Khal Drogo and Ned Stark, because you've got Jaime, you've got Robert Baratheon, but they're not as at the forefront as Ned and Khal Drogo are.
Their deaths, like Robert's, just creates problems. Robert's death just creates problems. Ned's creates a fucking war. It literally sparks a war. Robert's death is just who's taken over next. Like, it's terrible, but it's not creating anything that wasn't already going to happen. But Ned starts a whole fucking, I don't know if you class it as a rebellion or a war, because not really rebelling, they are fucking pissed off.
Yeah, big time.
Big time. Pissed off. Well, are you ready to move?
Yeah, I've only got short little bits on mine, because I knew that we'll end up talking a bit about it anyway. I think we are a bit strict for time.
Yeah,
I say strict for time. We've got an hour and 15 before I have other commitments to get to.
That's cool.
But an hour and 15 is nothing. Is nothing for Game of Thrones. That's an episode.
No. That is very true. Look at it that way, kids. It's an episode.
That's an episode.
Right. My second one, you've already mentioned it. Actually, you've mentioned every single one of my other, apart from one.
I'm sorry, I should stay away from honorable mentions.
Well, my second episode is season 2, episode 9, Blackwater.
I mean,
for the sheer one reason that makes it like, I love the episode. I love Tyrion finally like showing like, look what I have fucking learned. Yes, I hate what happens afterwards to Tyrion, but in that moment, Tyrion is the fucking man.
Yeah.
But the Hound.
Fuck the king.
Fuck the king. What else does he say? Oh my god, I had it written down
just
somewhere.
Fuck everything, isn't it? It's just
fuck the king. Fuck the war. Fuck everyone.
Fuck Stannis.
I'm out of here. Fuck Stannis. He actually says fuck Stannis.
Fuck the king.
That is one of my favorite moments, because my god, is that man put up with so much shit up until that point.
Yeah, and we've got to remember, like, we will obviously go through lesser houses. So if it's not on the wheel, I'm going to put it on the wheel to talk about lesser houses. Clegane is a lesser house. They are sworn to House Lannister. The Mountain is Tywin's little pet. The Hound is a more complex character. He has more of a mind of his own, but he knows duty. but he's just seen enough now. He could deal with it under Robert because Robert was it wasn't the best king, but he was a strong character. Joffrey's a little bitch.
No,
He's a
Joffrey is a
kid.
little.
The Hand's like,
bitch.
why am I
Oh.
putting up with this little twat?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
I don't fucking need this in my life. The end, is it the end where when Tywin walks in?
Yeah,
just
so
as
Tywin.
Just as Cersei is about to poison herself, because this is how bad it is. If Cersei is willing not only to kill her children but herself, it's not just the children. I can accept Cersei killing her kids. I totally get that, but Cersei then doing it to herself. That's when you know shit's getting real, and she was scared. And the second Tywin walks through that door, I am literally lost for words.
It's Tywin's, like, not obviously first involvement, but we really see the true, because before that you just see him more as a commander of an army, head of house, Lannister. But then you see the political side. This is where we start seeing the political side of Tywin as well. Stannis obviously wasn't expecting it. Stannis thought he could win. Yes, the wildfire happened. And then obviously we see a change as well, because obviously Tyrion was entrusted. Then he gets cut down. Saved by good old Pod.
Yeah, saved by the great Pod.
But you don't know if Tyrion's dead, like sort of what's happened, and he really starts in the eyes of Lannisters and in the eyes of King's Landing, he really becomes, in everyone's eyes, the sort of the monster.
Yeah, because he's now disfigured like a monster. In the book, Tyrion isn't described or is visually looks like what Peter Dinklage looks like.
No.
He is disfigured, he is misshapen. He's but the Battle of Blackwater Bay, he gets his nose cut off. And obviously for visual reasons, that could not take place on the show. He literally has his nose cut off.
No,
and
we'd have a miniature Voldemort otherwise.
We would. And Peter Dinklage is so beautiful, we don't need to do that.
He is a very attractive man, better with the beard.
Yes, agreed. He then it's adding on top of the monstrosity that is already on Tyrion. The thing is with Tyrion's character, though, is that he always ends up, he's always given the shitty end of tasks.
Bounces back. He finds a way.
Always fucking does it. He was once given a task of sorting the drainage problem out in Westeros. And he
in Casterly Rock.
Casterly Rock, that's it.
Yeah.
And he created a draining system that absolutely perfected how drainage systems work. But he still didn't get the fucking credit for it. This is what happens after Blackwater. The mastermind behind the mastermind of not securing the war and what Tywin did, not taking away from Tywin, but securing Westeros, like securing the Red Keep and everything that surrounds it. That's all Tyrion.
And all the credit goes to Joffrey instead.
Little shit.
Little turd boy himself.
Yes. So my
Jack Gleeson, I'm really upset that Jack Gleeson has had the sort of stick that he's got and he doesn't want to act. I can get not wanting to act anymore. But
that's sad because, my God, that boy was so good. He made me fucking hate him on a regular basis. But that is a sign of a good fucking actor. And people need to learn to fucking just to separate. That is not him. He is not going around killing babies or, I don't know. There's a list. There is a list that Joffrey did.
Massive list.
Massive list.
A massive list. Massive list. I get why. And again, I had to put it on honorable mentions because obviously for reasons that my list will become apparent, but it is one of those sort of, again, another sort of pivotal moment.
It solidates my love for season 2, that episode. Absolutely solid. I hated season 2. It is the reason why I turned it off originally, is because it was just boring as shit to me. But on a second watch and actually watching and actually paying attention and getting involved with these characters, and especially Tyrion. Tyrion is the absolute MVP of season 2. Yes. From the second he is given the job of Hand of the King and he shoves it in fucking Joffrey's face to the very end when him and Shay are together and she still calls him her lion, and that at the time
It is good.
that
You like
made it. That made Tyrion's what Tyrion was going through. It made it okay because he had.
I think at that time
Shay.
Shay was genuine still. I think it became later and more apparent that then Tywin got his influences. I don't think she was Tywin's at the start.
No. Oh my God, no. Whatever happens afterwards was not what was happening right there in that moment.
No.
She was his and he was hers, and it was that everything was going to be okay because he had Shay.
Yes, yeah, I get the whole thing with season 2 as well, because season 2, after what happened at the end of season 1, season 2 is almost rebuilding these separate storylines to come to a head at some point again in the future, and we almost have to world build again and sort of set the storylines up again. Mm-hmm. Blackwater is very, very much a reprieve for the season, because if Blackwater and Valar Morghulis aren't there, season 2 is weak. Personally, don't get me wrong, it's still good. It's Game of Thrones, it's still good. But because the storylines are so disjointed, there's no linking at all after what happened in Fire and Blood at the end of season 1. And it's just that kind of like, oh God, you just want something to you've had that happen at the end of season 1. You're like, give me something else. And it finally appears in Blackwater
and it blows the fuck up.
Well, literally as well, for the wildfire.
And how beautiful is that green for wildfire?
I know, but this ties into my next pick as well.
Oh well, I've deleted mine, so let's go.
with the again, this is more situational for me, and why I just love this episode, because it's the cinematography and the acting combined is some of the greatest acting and cinematography I personally have ever seen in the show. And my pick for my number 4 on my list is season 7's, I can't remember what episode it is now, Spoils of War.
Oh wow, we're not the same episode. Okay. Whew, the way you were talking there, I was like, oh, that was mine. It's not.
Well, Spoils of War.
Which one?
It's basically it's straight after. So Daenerys has already landed in Dragonstone. And
right.
This is just after Olenna's famous line of "Tell Cersei it was me." And they're on the way back. They're on the way back from Highgarden, and out of nowhere, they start hearing things, and you hear the storm. You hear the Stormborn coming, and then I'm getting goosebumps. I don't know if that comes on camera or not. I generally really have goosebumps.
I've been getting chills the majority of the time we've been talking about this.
This is why I love Game of Thrones. I think a lot of other people do, but this is, and then you start seeing the Dothraki coming over the hill, and they're all the Dothraki screamers are there, and you see, this is where you see as well Rickon Tarly and why he was quite revered. We don't see much of Rickon Tarly. This is Samwell's dad, by the way. We don't see much of Rickon. Obviously, his son Dickon is there. Really unfortunate name. Poor, what's his name? Tom Hopper, I think it is. Because we love Tom Hopper. Umbrella Academy and lots of
Umbrella Academy. Tremendous actor. Such a shame that it was just a very small part, and this would have been class if he was in it bit more. But
the Leicester boys as well, because he's a Leicester boy.
Yay!
Well, Loughborough, technically Leicester, we'll call it Leicester. And you see Randall. You see Randall Tarly, not Rickon Tarly. Who am I talking about? Randall Tarly.
Do you know what? I didn't even correct you because I genuinely thought it was right. This is Randall. It's Randall. Rickon Stark. You've said Rickon Stark today. If that's any help.
Sorry, guys. That's I've been up for about an hour and a half at this point, so apologies.
That's very true.
Yeah.
No. Randall Tarly.
Randall Tarly, and you can see why he obviously is the complete opposite of Sam, because obviously it's Sam's dad. Because he's immediately like, right, everyone, sort your shit out. Battle's coming. Bring it on. Obviously, Bronn knows. Bronn's a very logical guy. He knows what's coming. And Jamie's like, right, let's try and do it. And you see the shot of them all running. The cinematography. You've got the mountains in the background. It is
Beautiful.
stunning. And then the famous line, because Bronn turns to Jaime and went, "Look, you're a commander. Get out of it. You're not a damn infantryman. We're about these fuckers are about to swamp us."
Yeah, like Bronn talking war, like war strategy, makes me very happy.
It does. Well, it's kind of war, but also just him being a sellsword. He knows he's smart. He's smart. And Jaime Lannister says, "We can hold them off." And then you hear Drogon.
I've got chills. I literally have chills.
And then you see Jaime's face and Bronn's face turn around, and they're like, because obviously at this point still they do not know that the reports of Daenerys' dragons are true. They still think that it's just a bit of hearsay. There's not much truth behind it. But now it's a case of shit. That's
a fucking dragon right there, bitch.
That's a dragon, and you see Jaime's face, and he's like, he for the first time in his life, he does not know what to do.
It's such a good turning point for Jaime, because that's when Jaime is so childlike when it comes down to these wonders that are being revealed to him. When he sees the dragon, it's almost like a child's gasp. Like,
win? He still thinks that if he's back with Cersei and things are going well, they've got the Tarleys there as well. They've got a really good commander in Randall. They've got different other people. They've just taken Highgarden. They've got all of Highgarden's stuff.
And they had a lot of stuff, yeah.
And then a fucking dragon appears, bearing in mind that there's only one of them, and Daenerys has 3.
Yes.
And it's the shot of when Drogon, bearing in mind Drogon's massive at this point as well. He's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. And when he's flying over the Dothraki, and he lets, it is just so stunning, and you just sat there like, this is incredible. Like, how, like, when was the last time when we've seen a proper dragon sort of thing? We saw Smaug in obviously The Hobbit, but as far as TV shows go, with something like the lore behind dragons and how prevalent dragons have been in so many TV shows, books, movies, anything like that, to have something as good as this appear, and in the way that it was done, and then you just don't know what they're going to do, and then all of a sudden, just whack. Bang. Drogon obliterates them, the Dothraki obliterate them, everything is completely up in the air, and you see the look on Dickon Tarly's face. He was scared. Properly scared.
The only person who wasn't scared was Bronn.
No, Randall Tarly as well. Randall Tarly didn't fuck. He was
I don't think Randall Tarly knows emotion.
No, he doesn't. Apart from anger,
despair, and disdain.
Yeah, 100%. But this then goes into a different part as well, where you've got Tyrion stood on the hill and he sees Jaime, because Drogon's been hit by one of the arrows at this point.
He gets hit by one of the scorpion arrows.
Arrows. Bronn manages to hit him. And obviously, so he drops down, and Jaime's on his horse. He sees Drogon injured, and Daenerys with a back turn trying to pull out this spear. And Tyrion, with some of the Unsullied and Dothraki behind him, is saying, "Don't do it. Run."
Don't do it.
And you can see that he still loves his brother quite clearly, because Jaime and Tyrion's brotherly relationship, fantastic. I've loved it from day one.
Absolutely beautiful.
And you see him saying, "No, don't do it." But Jaime's like, "Fuck it, I can end it right here, right now. I don't care if I die. I'm a knight." Picks up a spear, and you're thinking, "Ooh!" And you don't know what's going to happen because of the writing style of George R.R. Martin, but also the TV writing style. You don't know if Jaime's about to die. You don't know if Dany's about to die. You don't know if Drogon's about to die. And at the very last second, Drogon obviously, and then you see Drogon's face, and you're like, "Oh, so it's definitely Jaime that's dying now," because nobody else is there. And out of nowhere, Bronn comes. Yes, 2 horses were obliterated, but Bronn manages to save him in the nick of time, which is
like
a bit unlike Bronn, because with Bronn being so logical, he's almost like, "Well, Jaime's fucked. Bye."
But do you know what? With the Lannister brothers, Bronn has such great relationships with them, and I genuinely believe he treasures them.
Well, he does,
probably for his own gain.
He wants what's owed to him,
probably for his own gain. So keeping Jaime Lannister alive, keeping Tyrion alive, is always going to be in his best interest.
I do think, though, that moment was more a case of, because he is a bit more friendly with Jaime as well. As we've seen, later on with Tyrion, he is a bit more friendly with Jaime as well. because he realized that Jamie isn't just he's because after all of his stuff with, and again, character development, he's not just this Lannister, he's just not Lannister Gold anymore. He is a person and all this sort of stuff as well. And I mean, that episode for me, I've got it written down in my notes just to, because I was watching again reactions for that because I just had to. And I nearly cried because of how stunningly beautiful it is, and this is part of my list, is the overwhelming thing for me personally in the emotions that it gives me. I'm not very much the kind of person, I see something sad and cry. I'm not like that. Even with the Door episode with Hodor, there was more to it because Hodor is basically being controlled by Bran. And it's not Hodor's choice, and he's scared. It's not just because it's a sad thing that made me cry. It's because of a lot of other things, and like with this episode, because of how beautiful it is and how beautiful it's done. Even when Drogon's burning everything to shit, it's so beautiful the way that it's shot. Yes, there's a lot of death, but it's so stunning, and just the emotion you get of. Because so my most emotional film or TV show ever, it's not a sad thing. I get, like I said, really overwhelmed by really meaningful things and lots of other things behind it. The Battle of Pelennor Fields and Lord of the Rings, The Ride of the Rohirrim, Death, that will never fail to give me goosebumps, make me cry, because the music is everything all turned into one. And this is one of those sort of episodes that, with the nature of it, Daenerys is in Westeros. She is beginning her.
She is there. That's a thing.
She's beginning her Aegon's conquest. She's beginning her own sort of conquest, and it's just magic. It's just really, really magical. And again, the acting, particularly from Nikolai Coster-Waldau, however you say his name.
He's Danish. I'm sure you're saying it right.
It's Danish, yeah. God knows how it's said if he's Danish.
I get what you mean though, when you don't get emotional because of what's actually happening. You're getting emotional because of the scenery, the music, the action, everything. I have dropped so many tears. Lord of the Rings is a brilliant example of that. It's beautiful cinematography.
Lord of the Rings, by the way, everyone.
It's such a beautiful cinematography and you get that in that episode. You also get it in my next one.
Right, what's next? Lay on.
My next one is, it does really fit in with following on from this one, and I generally thought this is the episode you were going with.
I'm glad it's not. I do like the difference.
It is from season 4, and it's another episode 9. It is The Watchers on the Wall. This is the battle.
Wasn't it? That was the battle. That's the battle, isn't it?
I'm telling you, every single one apart from me last one is been on your honourable mentions.
Right, so I'm not allowed to do honourable mentions anymore. I think that's going to be wise in future, because I'll end up just ruining the whole.
I don't agree, because I have a really good poker face, and not a lot of people. If the setup is the way that it has been in Patreon, no one can see my face, so no one will know if it's my episode or not.
I'm always down here if you can't.
Down in the low.
Exactly.
Yeah, Watchers of the Wall. This is a time when Game of Thrones. This is my first series watching it with everyone else. Season 4, because I watched season 3 up to 1 to 3, and then season 4 I was watching it with everyone else. And this was the first time I looked at this TV series and thought, "Fuck me, I'm watching a film. I'm watching a movie."
It goes from the TV sort of show to a literal sort of film, and that's how House of the Dragon feels to me, that I've mentioned before. But this, I'm 100% going on from Blackwater as well.
Yeah,
that again felt like it, but none more so. With Watchers on the Wall, that sort of climax of the fight felt like the main climax of a film. Yes,
it really, really did. And we stay in one place. We're in the wall. We don't leave the wall for the entire episode. The cinematography in this episode is absolutely stunning. It is such a dark episode, yet as in what is happening, there's a battle going on, but you can visually see it as well. So it is dark, as in a sense of it's in the dark, but we see everything. There is two moments that stand out for me in this episode. First is obviously Ingrid's death. Egret. Her death by that little shit.
Yeah, but it's the fact that he nods afterwards because he doesn't know. He's just like, I've helped you out there, John. John's like,
I got you. I've got you, John. Like, John's like, well, you fuck, man.
That's me woman.
Exactly. Literally. But the second one, and probably what really cements how I feel about this episode, is the tunnel. The tunnel. I'm probably going to get choked up talking about it because it is one of the most beautifully shot scenes that I've ever seen in this show. It is literally one tunnel. It is about 4 or 5 men on their knees saying the Night's Watch oath.
Vows. Yeah, the oath.
As a fucking giant is about to kick the door in. I have got goosebumps thinking about this moment. It is the epitome of what the Night's Watch are, of what Jon's brothers are. We can't do a lot here. This is pretty much it. But we are going to fucking defend the wall.
That bastard ain't getting through. Like you understand it, like, because everyone's scared. Because you got to remember as well, the Night's Watch at this point is very thin on the ground. Mm-hmm. It's been established since the first sort of episode. It's still thin on the ground, and these people they're not well trained. They're not soldiers or anything like that. They're basically scared boys that had the only other choice was jail. That's how you get to the Night's Watch.
Yeah.
You see that
yeah. I think I got sent there as a kid because you're a dick, like Sam. But Sam was never a dick. His family thought he was.
Yeah. Well, he gets stripped of everything or he joins the Night's Watch. But he had no choice because you get stripped of everything anyway.
Pretty much.
But you've actually got something. But no, I get it because they're all sort of stand there, and I can't remember his name. The guy that kind of gets them all rallied up. And it's a case of that giant doesn't get through.
I've got the list of characters here. Is it Then? No, yeah. That's a warg.
No, Then's a type of warg.
He's a warg, yeah. Gren.
Yeah.
Gren. Oh my god. I'm so happy he lived. I'm so happy Gren lived. But is it Gren? Is it Gren the one who
doesn't live? They all die.
No, they don't. Some of his brothers live. It's only the big guy who was in Happy Valley, the last season of Happy Valley. His mate, he does have a couple of friends who does survive. Gren is the little skinny kid. He dies, I'm sure of it. But what's the guy called with the long black hair?
Pip is the one that dies earlier on, but he dies through an arrow through the neck.
Yes, Pip dies. The guy with the beard who was just in Happy Valley, he dies. He's the one who's in the tunnel. It's the one with the long hair who's at the top of the wall.
Oh, Ed,
that's it. He survives.
I thought you meant about I was about to say everyone in the tunnel dies, don't they?
Yeah, no, they all die. This is an episode I don't hate. This is an episode. Well, a big massive door crashes on them, so like they ain't surviving that.
And a giant,
giant.
And we get to see, because I love that as well, because you see we see mammoth. I mean, fuck, I'm sorry, again, this is going to be a very sweary episode, but fuck me.
Oh, yeah.
A giant riding a mammoth, that is just, you sit there and go, that is cool as fuck.
That is high top quality fucking fantasy right there.
Know.
A giant riding a
mammoth. And the fact that the mammoth helps rip the gate off, because the sort of tricky things, I've seen a lot of, I don't know if you know who's in, I can't remember the name of Corridor Crew, that's it. And they do like a load of VFX and CFX some FX breakdown anyway. And the tricky thing when you've got really big objects and big characters is making their size feel big.
Yeah.
We look at the original Godzilla, the 2014 Godzilla, I think it is. Mm-hmm. His size is very, like, the ground shakes when he walks. He walks in almost slow motion. And it changes up for the other Godzilla versus Monsters, whatever it's called. But with this episode, the strain on the chains that the mammoth has, the strength that the mammoths have, the movements of the giants, you get full well that these are big boys, and they have big strength.
Yep.
You see that, and yes, the mammoth burns. That's very, very sad. But you see the sort of size, and you've got Mag the Mighty, you've got Wun. There's another giant as well that I can't remember his name. That will come up in a minute. Believe me.
Yes, I know it will.
Good old one.
Yep.
And well, actually, no, it will come up in my next one straight away. Actually, anyway, in a different way that you were thinking, though. But yeah,
okay.
I get why Watchers on the Wall is up there, because it's Mance believes he can take it, but Mance is doing it for a different reason. He's trying to get his people away from what's to come. And the only way to do that is to have a war. There's no the Night's Watch are not just going to let them pass, and that's where Jon starts changing, and things start changing wildling-wise, and they become hang on a minute, wildlings are just people. They're just on the other side of the wall. That's it.
They're part of the First Men.
They are.
Why? And they are part of the First Men, but so are the Stark. So why aren't they fucking friends?
Yeah, well, it's just what Ygritte said. You were born on that side of the wall, and I was born on this side of the wall.
Exactly. This is an episode that does not make me hate Alistair Thorne as much as what I fucking do. He worked in that war. Janis, I'm not going to say his name right. Janis Slant.
Yeah, Janis Slant, little bitch.
There is nothing more satisfying than his fucking head coming off. But it's the one where Thorne really. I don't hate him in this episode. I'm actually setting aside my hatred, and because he is doing what he was there to do. He's protecting the wall.
Do you want to know a fun fact as well?
Go.
Is that if Alistair Thorne had realised who Jon really was, he'd have acted incredibly different, because Alistair Thorne was pretty much sent to the wall because he was a Targaryen loyalist.
What? Holy shit, I did not know that. Did I know that? Was I meant to know that?
It's not really one of those. It's never brought up in the show. But
okay.
I'm pretty sure that he's a Targaryen loyalist. I think that's part of the reason why he was sent to the wall. And probably part of the reason why he hates Jon Snow, because obviously he's a Stark. Part of the Stark family anyway. If he realised he was the son of Rhaegar, things would have been very, very different.
It's why he's so kind to Maester Aemon, isn't it? He's so kind to him.
But also, Alistair Thorne is very much. He's also the kind of guy that's an old guy. Let's be nice.
Yeah, I get that. And do you know what? For as much as I hate him, and it probably is hatred because of how he treated Jon, and we all know as a viewer, Jon doesn't deserve what he's getting from him. But he was very honor bound to the Night's Watch. Like, they were his brothers, and at a time of difficulty, he stepped up. But Janis Slant, I hated him.
Even Sam takes the piss out of him afterwards.
Yeah, he's the biggest fucking creep going. Don't like him.
Definitely. Was that your number? That was your number 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've got 2 more left.
Yeah.
Well, depending on your next pick, I've got 2 more left.
Well, my next one is season 5's Hardhome.
Oh yeah. Oh, good.
Now, again, this is where if you have trouble like with me with linking episodes to what actually happens in them because of the name, this is sort of one of them. Hardhome is basically we start off with sort of Jorah coming back into with Daenerys being head of, I think it's Marine. It's one of those slaving places that gets a bit muddled up for me anyway. She doesn't want Jorah there because she's found out that Jorah was spying at the very start. She sends him away, and Tyrion's influence is growing on Daenerys, but Daenerys is still really, really unsure. And we kind of half figure out that Varys has been controlling things even way back, because Tyrion says Varys is pretty much the reason that Daenerys isn't dead. He must have had instruction from Robert to say kill her off
100 times over.
And Varys has been like, maybe not. But again, this kind of goes into other areas before we get to the sort of main bulk of the episode and the main reason why I love it. You've got Arya's trial as an assassin when she's going through the whole oyster market thing. That's that part.
You've got Sansa when she was at Braavos.
Yeah. You've got Sansa berating Theon And we find out, or at least Sansa finds out, that Bran and Rickon are actually still alive, because Theon comes out that no, they were just farmers' boys, actually.
Oh yeah, his big show-off moment.
Yeah. Ramsay also, takes on Stannis at this point, because this is before the season 5 finale. Jon meets with the last of Mance's army, and that's how we end up where we are at Hardhome, because Jon goes there. Because obviously at this point, everyone accepted Jon, and then Jon turns his back almost by defending the wall, and then he's Jon's back. There's a lot of arguing. The Lord of Bones, Tormund murks the Lord of Bones and says, basically, I'm on Jon's side. If you're not on Jon's side, come try it. I'll end everyone that I possibly can.
Is this the episode where they rise?
Yeah. It's basically everyone. The last of Mance's army are very disjointed. They don't know what's going on. And then it turns into just a straight up horror.
It turns into a Sam Raimi's fucking nightmare.
I didn't really realise how much of horror it was until I went back and rewatched it. Because you get this eerie feeling, these eerie noises, and then the whites start appearing. It's a whole shut the gate. They're trying to fight, everything like this. There's too many of them. And then the White Walkers appear on top of the mountain. One of them comes down, kills a couple of people. We see that his sword his spear, sword, whatever it is, can shatter swords. He's almost about to end Jon. Then we find out that Valyrian steel can't be destroyed. And even the White Walker's like, that shouldn't have happened.
That should not have happened.
And then just all hell breaks loose, and they get to the boats and everything like this, and everything goes tits up, and you see the true power and the scary nature of, because when he stands at the edge, because I'm going to bring up something in a minute anyway, but I'll say something else. It's very much a case of, Jon tries to get, this is where Jon sort of changes as well, because he does tell the people, the long night is coming.
Yeah.
And the dead's coming with him.
Yeah.
Or with
such a good scene.
Sort of thing. And that kind of gets the wildlings kind of on his side a little bit to be brought back. And Jon knows he's going to have trouble getting the wildlings past the wall. But it's a case of Jon at this point, his character arc goes down the route of, it's the living versus the dead. This is where his character arc starts properly changing. And then right at the very end, you've got the Night King raising his arms and all of the dead rise up. And it is so eerily quiet.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. The quietness of that episode is, it adds to the horror element. There's nothing more scarier than not having music to depict your emotions and how you should be feeling, and to see them rise up. Is this
Even
the
Wonder
moment?
Woman can't do anything. This is what I was going to say about Wonder Woman.
Oh, thank God for that.
The sea.
Yeah, Wonder Woman's like, fuck this, man. Is this the moment though that Jon realizes Valyrian steel is an aid?
Yeah, because the dragon glass kind of gets left, but the dragon glass that they did have gets left at Hardhome, because that's why Jon tries to go back for it. And I think it's Ed or Tormund is like, I think it's Ed, fuck the dragon glass, we're dead if we go back for it.
Yeah.
But another thing, again, it goes back to the whole eerie thing, and how, because it is genuinely really, because you're sat there going, well, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
Not only was it terrifying, it's really eerie. I don't feel comfortable where I'm sat anymore. But how the fuck are they going to survive? Because we've been swearing a lot in this episode. We need to put more disclaimers out at the start.
Oh, don't worry. I feel like if people have come here, they've come here on the back of my podcast with the Nerdy Up North's main podcast. Yeah. We swear really badly in that. So
oh, thank goodness, because I'm a very sweary person.
Yeah, we swear really badly in that. Like, we have to wait like a few seconds beforehand. Otherwise, I think YouTube tell us off or something like that. We have to wait for 15 seconds, and then we can just curse away.
Like, you can't start off with "What's up, fuckers?" But
I mean, we could because
we're on Patreon. We could start.
We're on, exactly, and we're adults. So yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck you, kids.
No, but you left at that sort of standpoint of, how are they going to win this? Because the Dead's army doesn't diminish; it just increases.
Yeah.
But
It's
one thing that I really, really found with doing a rewatch: does the Night's King know who Jon is, or at least how important Jon is? Because the Night's King goes after the important characters. He doesn't care about the little people unless they come for him, i.e., Theon Greyjoy. Not important. The Night's King doesn't care, kills them off, blah blah. But in Hardhome, he is fixated with Jon Snow. Fixated, and yes, the argument is there for, well, Jon's kind of the figurehead trying to rally them all up. But there's something more than that, because when he raises his arms, he's looking directly at Jon Snow. He is looking into Jon's soul.
Look what I can do. Yeah, look what I can do.
And I think that the reason why he comes, because obviously every single time Jon ventures north, kind of after, up until, at Hardhome, and then after that, every time Jon goes north, the Whites are not far behind him.
I have so many questions when it comes down to the Night King. I am still not convinced he is just a man.
Well, this is the sort of thing of it pretty much is, because the most sort of theories that are out there is that originally he's one of the First Lord Commanders that isn't really mentioned, that goes missing and sort of becomes the Night King. We're talking obviously thousands of years ago.
But there was also theories that he was Bran the Builder.
There are a couple of theories that he's Bran the Builder. Yeah, I personally don't buy into the Bran the Builder theory as much, because Bran the Builder builds up things and tries to protect things, then all of a sudden he turns into a White Walker and now he wants to knock things down.
There was a lot of questions when it comes to the Night King and his identity, and it felt so thrown away. And
I'll be coming on to that.
Oh, okay. It felt just so thrown away with them. But that scene, do you know what? Up until the point of where you mentioned Hart, and I'm like trying to wrap my brain going, what? There's got to be something more here. This is not this can't be the reason he likes this episode. And when the minute you mentioned, I was like, holy shit! I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I like it for a lot of reasons, but it is that how it changes up to being really horror based, and it's just a really good watch, and it's genuinely scary as well. That's the sort of thing of, yes, you're watching a TV show about fantasy. Fantasy can be scary.
Yeah, and this is
as its own separate thing. Fantasy can be scary, and Game of Thrones literally goes through every single possible genre you can possibly imagine. If anyone starts chiming in and saying, "Oh, they didn't do sci-fi," House Dane. The sword is built from a fallen star.
Oh, okay. Well, Matt, are you ready to move on to my next pick?
Yes, yeah, please.
Okay,
so I think we go off on too many different tangents if we carry on.
Another one that you've had on your honorable mentions. And is it? No, it's an actual episode 8 of a season. Yay, I'm out of the 9s. It is season 4, episode 8.
Okay.
The Mountain and the Viper. I love this episode, but I hate it at the same time.
Oh, everyone at this point was like,
close.
What is going on? Why? Everyone was just, why?
You were this close. You just had to step away from him. You did it. You killed him. That was it. You got what you wanted. You got the Lannisters to admit that they orchestrated the rape and murder of your sister. You got that. You've got it all. Fucking walk away.
Because he fucking, because don't get me wrong, the rest of the episode is a bit, but the character himself, Pedro Pascal, wonderful.
Oh,
he plays him so well, and the character has this kind of aura of
cockiness.
But he's also very very Dornish. I'm Dornish.
Oh yeah,
I'm different, and. He doesn't care. He just wants revenge for Elia Martell, his sister, and her.
But he wants it in a way. He wants it in a way that is so different than how we would expect revenge to come. He's not looking for people to get hurt, murdered, whatever. Apart from the Mountain, obviously, he is wanting accountability.
Yes,
he wants the people who put that. He knows the Mountain did it. He knows that. He wants the person who is responsible for putting the mountain in that position and getting him to do it. That was Tywin Lannister. He wants Tywin Lannister's basically held accountable. He is looking to bring down House Lannister, and he nearly fucking had it.
Because he handled the mountain. The mountain, he was too quick, he was too sharp, he was just too good. And it saddens me as well that we didn't get to see more of him.
Yes, the Viper is there's a reason why he was that skilled for. His spears are all laced with poison. Like, he's not playing a fucking game here. And he came to win. And right when he says to what's her name, Illyria Martell? Is it Illyria? Illyria is oh god, what's her name? Illyria.
It's like his half sister or something, isn't it? I can't remember her name. She's
no, it's his mistress. It's the mother of his children.
Is it?
Yeah. The
I'm
mother
sure
of his
half
kids.
sister as well.
Well, I mean, it could be. It is Game of Thrones, but it is the mother of his children.
No, she's the one that kills Marcella, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
I'll find it eventually. But it's that moment where Illyria Sand, because she is a bastard, obviously, and Sands in Dawn is the bastard name. It's when she says, "Don't leave me in this world," and he says, "Never." And I'm like, yeah, that bitch is coming back. Like, he is coming back. He's not coming back.
It was
I did not expect the death the way that it was. That was horrific.
It was so bad. I mean, this is one of those sort of episodes. I think it's not, the episode itself isn't stacked. It's not a really story-driven sort of thing. It's one of those sort of offshoot stories that isn't important, and it's not imperative to the current story.
No.
Maybe with Illyria, with going back and ended up, trying to kill off Lannisters, but Oberyn Martell, it's not integral to the story, anything like that. But
it just comes in at the right moment.
It's a good, like, the ending of it is good, because you're like, oh my god, this guy's good, because he is so good and handles it so well, and you see Tywin even squirm.
Tywin is bricking it. Tywin knows the consequences. Especially, I don't think he realized going into it what his end game was, what Oberyn's end game was. Yeah. But when he started repeating, "You killed them, you murdered them," do you know what I mean? Like, he's doing that whole speech. Tywin's like, "Oh shit, holy shit! That I told him to do that. Like, that's on my orders." And he gets him to say it. He gets him to admit to it. And it could have been the end of House Lannister. It would have brought so many. It would have not just questioned, what happened there. Obviously, Cersei's children being illegitimate, they're not true heirs. It could have completely broke that dynasty completely. And he couldn't just take a step back.
And he got his head squished like a grape. No, he just wasn't focused, because he thought he'd already won. And obviously the Mountain being the strongest character in Game of Thrones.
It's when he pulls his hand up and he just grabs him by the neck, and he just like, whoosh, you fucker, get down.
Squashes him like a little grape. Teeny tiny grape.
I could not tell you what else happened in that episode.
No.
I couldn't.
It's a filler. It's one of the better filler episodes.
But that ending literally had me in mourning, because Oberyn was the breath of fresh air we were fucking waiting for.
Yes, because the Lannisters were so on top, and you're like, yes. Pitchforks were at the ready. Yeah. Everything, lanterns were lit, and then we had to extinguish them out because Oberyn got sloppy.
And then we had him taken away from us. And it was devastating. And that was an episode 8 episode. My God, we still had 2 more to go?
Yeah, exactly. The end of season 4, as I said at the very start, the last 4 episodes of season 4 is forget. I will not hear from anybody a good enough reason for anything else being better TV.
Yeah.
I simply won't hear it. I won't hear it. Because there just isn't.
Nope, there isn't. And I hate the fact on Wikipedia it says, this episode marks the final appearance, of Pedro Pascal. We know it is. You don't have to tell
I know, it's not okay.
It's not fine. But yeah, that's my 4th pick, so I only have one left,
Yeah,
and
my next
I am
episode-
so pleased it's not been brought up yet.
My next episode does. I swear, if this is your episode, I'm gonna cry.
Oh,
Because to be fair, we can talk about it together.
that's true. So it's not all doom and
Now,
gloom.
I nearly swapped. This was nearly my 4th pick instead. I did a lot of deliberating last night, and this was nearly my 4th pick instead, and I nearly moved Spoils of War. However, as an episode as a whole,
Mhm.
this is a better episode.
Okay.
Battle of the Bastards. Is this your next pick?
It's my last pick.
Oh God! See, it's good that we're in.
You
tandem
knew
for
that it
like-
was because I'd
for
mentioned
like-
1-1, and obviously this is the death of 1-1. Yeah, Battle of the Bastards is my final pick. Actually, that works out cool. Why don't we, instead of doing Battle of the Bastards now and then you doing your last pick, do your last pick, and then we can do Battle of the Bastards together.
We can do it because I'm going to hold up my case card now. I
Okay.
don't know if it'll be how readable it will be. Is it backwards?
Number one,
Not.
A Knight of 7 Kingdoms and the Long Night, I cried.
I've got, like, bearing in mind that all of my case notes are back to back with writing.
Wow.
That's because of how strongly, because again, this goes back to the charity podcast. For those that don't know, I was on the charity podcast with Nerdy Up North some time ago now. My specialist topic was Game of Thrones. I am a big believer, and I will push the agenda 100%. Yes, opinions are opinions, but it's one of those things that season 8, I think that people forget the good stuff in season 8
Yeah.
and focus too much on the bad stuff. Season 8
you're
as a
absolutely
whole
right.
is not as bad. Now, the Knight of the 7 Kingdoms, the reason why I mirrored my number 5 pick was because for me, A Knight of 7 Kingdoms and The Long Night is just one long episode. A Knight of 7 Kingdoms is the build-up before the battle.
Yes.
They know it's coming. They know it's very, very close. It's just that waiting for everyone to be told they're here. You see Arya, like, don't get me wrong, bit of side boob, I'm all for it. But she finally, shows a bit more different side to her character because she gets with Gendry as well.
It reminds you, not only is she older, she's also a woman.
She's also a woman, but also,
and she also has needs too.
All of these people are still human. And Arya's like, you know what? I've done so much other stuff. I've not had to enjoy the normal stuff. I've not even had sex yet. So you know what? Gendry, I quite like Gendry, and Gendry's like, don't get me wrong, I was perfect coupling, yeah. Because at one point you think, is the Hound good? Is she going to get with the Hound? And then you're like, no.
Uncomfortable watching, but I kind of see your thought process. Gendry was perfect. They have been together since season 2. I don't know in years how long that is. They've been together. He is the first person. He knew her while she was in a secret identity. That's the best way to describe it. He knew she was a highborn lady while she was pretending to be a boy. He knew her from the beginning.
Yeah, and Gendry's changed a lot as well. And you see all these people in their most human forms, and it is A Knight of 7 Kingdoms is phenomenal acting. Yeah. Because it almost just feels like it almost feels real, where just a bunch of friends are like, look, there's a high probability we're going to die tomorrow. But sure as shit, we're going to have a good last night, and whatever happens tomorrow happens. Obviously, you get the knighting of Brienne as well.
Oh, my girl,
by Jaime. You've got Jaime that's appeared. Obviously, Jaime appears beforehand, but he appears in this. Baelish has already been killed off just before this, so we don't have to worry about that more. And there's just so many people that have just come together. You've got the Beric Dondarrion comes back, and his other.
Oh my God, him and the Hound.
His name. And then it all sort of turns, and this is where, again, we mentioned earlier with Burlington's Bar. I'm sorry, I'm talking quick because I do have to go like at one.
Yeah.
On the sort of dot. So we're recording this. It's currently 12:30. Just for those wondering. And it is with the Long Night. People focus too much on the last part than what actually happened in this episode. This episode for me is this is what for me should have been basically the sort of end of Game of Thrones, just TV show wise. I understand the bits afterwards, but it would have been a perfect ending for me.
I get that.
And because at the very start, you've got all the Dothraki lined up. They're just
Mhm.
waiting, and they think that someone's coming. It's Melisandre. She just appears out of nowhere.
This like tiny little woman just walking around this like Dothraki army.
I know, and she's just come from where the White Walkers basically are as well. Everyone's ready, and then all of a sudden, she tells Jorah because Jorah's obviously heading the Dothrakis as well.
Because he's translator as well too.
He's translated, but he's heading the Dothraki as a warrior, and they all raise their sickles, and all of them turn on fire, and you see it, and the cinematography, because it's such a dark episode. It's dark with what happens, but dark shot.
It's dark, and I don't know if it's changed, and I believe that it has done, but the original airing was too dark that people couldn't actually see it. I couldn't see it, and it was the middle of fucking summer, so you've got the sun's not going down bright for a while. Everything's bright. We had to literally double up on the curtain. I could not see. I'm blind to start with.
It is very dark, but I think that it adds to some of the beauty of it, because that fire going, and you're like,
yeah,
you start getting ready, and I start getting really amped up, because again, I liken this to the Battle of Plain Orpheus with the Ride of the Rohirrim. Yeah, because you're amped up, and you're like, it's about to happen, and then they start riding.
Yeah,
you've got all the Dothraki, you've got Jorah, you've got Ghost, because Ghost joins them. Now they are all riding, and Daenerys and Jon are seeing it from atop with Rhaegal and Drogon, and then all you see are all the lights go out, and you're like I've got full body goose. Like, I'm not even joking. I've got goosebumps in places I didn't.
I have got the tingle. I can't even talk. So good.
And I will say to people, if you don't like season 8, that's fine. It's an opinion. However, I would highly recommend to go back. Think of it as a film. Think of the Night of Seven Kingdoms and the Long Night as a film. Ignore everything that's happened before that. Ignore everything that happens after that. Focus on what's going on in that episode. Absolutely. And then you see Jorah sort of come back with a couple of Dothraki. And
not a lot.
You're like, oh. And after that, carnage breaks out. You've got the Unsullied fighting. And then all of a sudden, Drogon and Rhaegal are obliterating with fire, and it's like you've been brought back up.
Yeah,
and then everything that happens, you go up
and you go up and down so many times in that episode. You have a lot of death in that episode.
I kind of, with all the emotions of that episode, I got worked up. And then obviously you've got the dead white Viserion on the back of the Night King. The Night King gets thrown off, falls to the floor. You brought back up. You brought back down because Daenerys tries obliterating him with fire. Doesn't work. Jon realizes what he's trying to do with raising his hands, charges, gets stopped by all the whites. Then Drogon and Viserys come back. Daenerys falls off. Drogon gets covered in whites, has to fly away, got no other choice because he's about to die. And you hear the screeching of him in pain.
Yeah, it's awful.
And then you've got all the stuff that then happens inside of Winterfell. You've got the people in the crypts. You've got Viserys taking care of the children. You've got Sansa and Tyrion talking about each other.
Yeah, talking about their lives.
Tyrion kisses Sansa's hand because they're trying to protect each other.
Still technically married.
You've got Jorah's sacrifice.
Yep.
And there's a standstill that kind of all of the episode, halfway through the episode, it kind of comes to a standstill because Melisandre manages to get the trenches lit. And it comes to a standstill and you can breathe for a second because it's so intense.
Yeah.
And it just all kicks off. But Jorah's sacrifice is just, it is so heartbreaking because you can clearly see that he's loved Daenerys since day one.
They don't. That man has been infatuated.
Because he is a bit older and she was very, very young at the start. So
you know what? I don't think it started that way. I think it was a spy. He was a spy. Yeah, I think as he got to, even from the second he met her, I don't think, regardless of what he was going to get out of Westeros, I don't think he would have done anything to that girl. But I think the love it developed. And I think it's probably it's more than love. It's more than friendship. It's more. It's so
It's
deep
so
and
deep.
personal. Yeah, I think it's so much more than just a sexual attraction to her. There's so much more behind it.
Oh, definitely. There's so much more behind it, but the sacrifice that he makes, it is. So, and if you're focusing, I'm very much when it comes to TV shows and movies, I'm very much focusing in the moment. That moment is stunning. With it's again, yes, it's a bit of a carbon copy of Boromir.
Yeah,
But I'm sorry, it's actually done so well. It's not as good as Boromir for me, but it is literally if next. It's missing a smidgen because it's a carbon copy,
yeah.
but because of that, every carbon copy is missing a smidgen. But that's all it's missing is a smidgen, and everything happens, and you've got Theon being told, "You're a good man.
You're a good man,
Thank you.
Theon." And he
Thank you." And
needed to
that's
hear
all he
that
wanted to,
from him.
after all the shit that happened, to hear it from that one person who he's potentially hurt and caused the most problems to in Bran.
Mm-hmm.
And he hears, "You're a good man." Now, yeah, I think with Bran going off and doing his warg stuff, everyone thought something else was going to happen. I think he was just going to see the future, to see potentially what happened, or just became a Raven and was just basically watching to see what he needed to do.
Basically,
If he needed to do more.
just fucking tapped out and went, you know what?
Yeah. But then you get another
I'm
thing
not
of
about this.
Melisandre as well. Oh, last time you told me, you said I'd kill lots of people. Yes, you'd kill people with eyes of brown, green,
brown eyes,
and
blue
eyes
eyes.
of blue. And I was like,
when it's when them two interacted with each other, Anth went eyes, and I went, that's from like season 2.
Eyes of blue, exactly. And she knows what she's got to do. And I think that's when Bran realised, oh, I is going to do this. I'm not going to do anything more.
I don't need to do anything more. I can just sit here.
Need to. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. The very end of the episode, I think it's been handled a bit, not necessarily bad, because the Night King had to die some way. That's what was going to happen.
And happily, he died with the dagger that is not only being... It's the prophecy, exactly. Now that we know a bit more about it from House of the Dragon, as I says to Ant, like we were talking about the dagger in House of Dragon and what it means, the prophecy, blah blah blah, and then leading up to Arya, and it's like it makes a lot more sense if we had a bit more detail about
that's
that.
That's the only thing that's missing. Is just a bit more of an explanation, and I think they can. But this is the thing, they can still touch upon who the Night King is or anything like that at future times, because is he completely dead? We don't. This is the thing. We don't even know. He could be. He might not be though. Yes, all the Whites died and stuff, but the magic behind him.
Well, who's to say he's the biggest baddest out there?
He's the biggest baddest out there.
Who's to say there's not somebody who's above him?
Or is it just a case of the other big baddie or whoever it is can just come back again?
Exactly.
What's stopping it? There's nothing, and there's so much things that can be looked back on, but that's mine tied number one, should we say, or almost all big one thing. Because
what I was thinking is, why don't we do the Wheel of Destiny for next week's episode? And before we talk about next week's episode, we do our why we love Battle of the Bastards.
Yes, apologies, it's my fault for being a bit pressed.
No, we got into it. We got into talking before we started recording, and time got carried away. But would you know what? It's our podcast. We can do this, and you know it. So, and I would like to have a proper lengthy discussion about Battle of the Bastards because it was my number 1 pick, Sam's number 4 pick, but number 2. It's still in there. So I would like a proper discussion about it. So let's do Wheel of Destiny for next week, so we know what we're dealing with.
Yep. Clicking to spin.
Spin.
I do like this wheel.
Right round, baby, right round. Like a record, baby. What we got
top. It's another top 5.
Oh my god!
Landed on the ultimate Game of Thrones quiz, which I
top 5
loved and hated characters.
Okay.
So this is just people, and I think we should take the sort of approach of just why we love and why we hate them. That's it.
Right. Okay.
Because there are a lot of characters. It could be the most, like with me, my favourite character ever is, I'm not going to add Arthur Dayne in there. I'm not going to add Robb Stark because I've already discussed that they're my favourites. I'll pick 5 others. for loved
Okay,
ones
so
anyway.
Are we doing 5 love, 5 hated? So again, it's probably going to be a bit of a lengthy one, but we are going to get the Battle of the Bastards out of the way with first. But time management will be better. Promise.
We will be. Sorry, we have been at this for an hour and a half now already.
We have. But top
It's
fives
what
are lengthy.
happens.
Well, top fives are lengthy. You watch my episodes on a Sunday, it happens. Top fives are lengthy.
Exactly. What more could we possibly do?
Exactly. But our time management skills will
Yeah.
be better. We will make sure that we are fully available to finish the episode.
But to be, in all fairness, when
we
it
technically
comes
did. We
to-
told you the list.
Yeah, and in all fairness, everybody knows the Battle of the Bastards is one of the best Game of Thrones episodes. Everybody that's watched it knows it.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
the reasons for that is there's a couple of things that I think that, because we get to see the reason why I potentially think John wasn't chosen as the rightful king, because he makes stupid fucking choices based on what he believes is right and what's wrong, and he makes stupid choices. He had a game plan and he ran after Rickon and caused his game plan to go to shit.
That scene. If John thought more as himself and not like Ned Stark, probably would have been a whole different situation.
Yes, Rickon was dead either way. Let's face it.
Let's face it. But Rickon could have played the best game ever of let's duck and weave and dive out of the way of this fucking arrow, you stupid bugger. It's Prometheus all over again. I get really angry at that scene, by the way.
I hate the big squeeze as well. It makes me so uncomfortable.
My anxiety gets so built up in that moment. But when I talk to my mum, today about this episode and why it was on my list, my mum was like instantly, it is one of the greatest episodes of all time for that moment alone, because she has never felt uncomfortable as a viewer of anything before. And that is the reason. She's like, if a show can make me feel like that, they're doing something right.
It was so, like, because the whole fighting parts, the long one-shot take that they did, Ramsay's plan of just, I've got this in the bag, because he did.
Up until the Knights of the Vale came fucking booling down that hill.
You get one of the, is it one of the Karstark traitors? I think it's Karstark. It's one of the Karstark.
It's a Karstark, yeah. He looks like a dick as well.
Yeah, but to be fair though, he takes it to Tormund. You know, he gets headbutted by Tormund or whatever it is, takes it on the chin, literally. But it's just very much. There's just the way that is shot and the acting is just so good, because yes, John has so much plot armor. John has the biggest plot armor throughout any other character in the show. Fight me, I will die on that sword. Because John never did die on that sword. Well, not for very long anyway.
John kind of found a bit of himself at the end when he got a hold of Ramsay.
Oh, gotcha. That was just
Ned
pure
Stark.
passion.
Ned Stark would never have done that. But Jon Snow, being himself, like 100, that is what he should need to do.
I don't think that's what. I think that's potentially why Bran didn't. Why he wasn't selected as king and sent back to the war, because Jon still had growing up to do, because he was too emotionally invested in things. Same as Robb. It was basically the curse of the
Starks. They're too lovely.
Starks. They were just too.
They're too lovely.
Too emotional. Ned was the one that broke that sort of chain anyway. Well,
honor bound Ned Stark.
Yeah, honor bound, but the others are honor bound, but they have too emotional with them as well, because they were raised in such a loving household as well.
Yeah, Ned comes from a different kettle of fish than what his children did.
Cut of the cloth. Yeah, exactly. To be fair, Ned never expected to become head of House Stark because he was the younger brother anyway.
And he never expected to be Hand of the King. There's a lot of things that Ned Stark didn't expect. And one of them is probably losing his head.
Yes, but did out of honour, because he was cut from that cloth.
Because he honour bound, just like his father, just like his brother.
But we've gone on a tangent already about Battle of the Bastards. Literally,
maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
Right,
we're so bad at this.
We need to start saying buckle up.
Well, we're going to wrap this up. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for joining the exclusive series. It will eventually get put onto YouTube, but this is directly exclusive for Patreon. So you guys get it first. Next week is top 5 characters we loved and hated. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to get angry at some point. Ooh, I'm going to get angry. I'm going to cry.
I'm getting angry for sure, because this is where, obviously, when it comes to hated characters, there are a lot, and a couple of them I think they're not going to be obvious to people. as well.
I'm going to try and stay away from the obvious. I'm going to really look into. I'm actually going to go and sit and do a rewatch. I'm thinking a rewatch is on the cards here because I need some. Do you know what? I just need it in my life again. So
that was my biggest thing with doing the episodes, is that I'm genuinely really sad that I will never have a first time watching these episodes again.
I feel like that with a lot of series, and Game of Thrones is one of them. I wish there was a device I could wipe my memory so I could rewatch it again and again and have them initial feelings that I had when I originally watched it and the reason why I love it so much.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap this. We'll say our goodbye. So thanks, Sam number 2.
Yeah, thank you, Sam number 1, and thank you for anybody else watching as well, because our time management today was, I think, a little bit off, because that's on. Don't blame Sam 1. That's all on Sam 2. For that,
Sam 1 did talk a lot before we came on, but hey ho, we did it. We finished. You've got time. You've got a little bit of time before your next appointment. So thank you, everyone, and stay nerdy, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.